Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. I do appreciate you being with me. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Hey, listen, I've already been asked, Don, what is your one or two or three book special for the month of March 2020? And let me say this. I do appreciate so very, very much your wonderful response to the book specials that we offer you, all right? I know that it's difficult at times to be able to afford good material, and so we want to help you out on that. So for the book of March, for the month of March 2020, and again, this is for in the continental U.S. only. I cannot make this offer for Mexican or Canadian or Philippines or Afghanistan or whatever, okay? But if you are out of the continental U.S. and you would like a copy of these books in PDF form with an agreement with us, all right, insofar as their use is concerned, then contact me and we will offer that for you. Now then, this three-book special for the month of March 2020, U.S. orders only, is the book, How Is This Possible? Now, in our examination of the Olivet Discourse, we're looking at the language of Matthew chapter 24, 29, and following. They shall see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Well, guess what? Some in the early church, 2,000 years ago, believed that had already happened. It had already happened. Well, how is this possible? Okay, like Father, like Son, on clouds of glory. This is a continuing best-selling title of all of the books that I have produced. This has been used as a college course on both hermeneutic and prophecy based on Jesus' statement in Matthew 16, 27, and 28. Regularly, $19.95, by the way, regularly $6.95. And the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Don't forget, some people 2,000 years ago believed it had already happened. So how's this possible? Regularly $19.95. Now, if you bought each of these books separately and paid separate shipping, it would be right at $60. Okay? Pardon me. But for the month of February 2020, U.S. orders only, total delivered price, $40. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. There's a banner right up at the very top. You know, Alan Morton, my webmaster, does a fantastic job of keeping on top of this, creating beautiful, wonderful banners, makes it easy for you. So just click on the banner, march you right through how to order. Now then, in our study of the Olivet Discourse, we have come to the passage of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 31. Speaking of Christ coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, says he shall send forth his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, as I shared with you yesterday, I was raised believing that's kind of a spiritual event. You go back into the books of the Old Testament, and you soon discover that the sounding of the trumpet had about 5 different reasons for it. I won't go into all of those reasons right now, but one of them was the gathering for the assembly to observe the festivals. Hint, hint, hint. It was to call Israel to the feast days, to celebrate the feast days. All of that aside for the moment, all right? I gave you an assignment yesterday. I hope you did it, to start reading with Isaiah 24 through 27. Now, I did that not because I'm going to go through every bit of Isaiah 24 through 27, but because I wanted you to have that context in your mind. So, for brevity's sake, I'm going to start with Isaiah chapter 24, Isaiah chapter 27. I'm only going to hit some highlights in order to bring us down to the critical text that has to do with Matthew chapter 24, verse 31. All right? Point number one, bullet point number one, Isaiah 27, 1 and 2. In that day. Now, first question is, In what day? It is the day in which the Lord would come out of heaven, tread on the tops of the mountains, and avenge the blood of the martyrs. Now ask yourself the question, when did Jesus say all of the blood of all the martyrs from creation onward would be avenged? Read Matthew 23, 29 through 37. It is unequivocal, it is explicit, it is undeniable. It would be in the judgment of Israel, the Israel of his day, of his generation, that would fill up the measure of their father's guilt. That's not some future generation of Israel. Boy, that would create a theological mess, would it not? It was his generation. So in that day in which the blood of the martyrs would be vindicated, the Lord with his severe sword, great and strong, will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent. Leviathan, that twisted serpent, he will slay the reptile that is in the sea. Now look, you got to understand the language that is being used here. Leviathan is depicted as the great Satan, the great devil. He is the great opponent of God. This text is promising that at the time of the vindication of the martyrs, once again, Matthew 23, God would destroy Satan. Well, you know, Paul had something to say about that in Romans 16 and verse 20. Paul, writing to the church at Rome, being persecuted by the Jews, said, "Now the God of peace shall crush Satan under your feet shortly." Here's Paul writing in the 60s. Okay? Some 30 years after Jesus said that all the blood of all the righteous, all the way back to creation, would be avenged in his generation. And here's Paul saying that God was going to crush Satan, the great persecutor, Leviathan, going to crush him under your feet shortly. You see the beauty there? Here is Paul referring back to Isaiah chapter 27. Oh, by the way, Paul is also referring back to Genesis chapter 3, 15 and 16, in which God promised that eventually the seed of the woman would crush the head of the devil, of Satan. Okay, what is that? That's resurrection. The destruction of the devil, of Satan, is the time of the resurrection. That's Revelation chapter 20, which occurs at the end of the millennium. And here's Paul saying, God will crush Satan. He will bring about the fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 27, and he will do so shortly. Now, I'm not going to go into the linguistics of that at this particular point, but I have a full development of it in this book, Like Father, Like Son, on Clouds of Glory. The language is undeniable that Paul was affirming and asserting the fulfillment of Genesis 3, affirming and asserting the fulfillment of Isaiah 27, and he said it was coming shortly. He did not say it's going to happen rapidly whenever it happens to come, maybe 3 or 4 gazillion years away. That is an utterly specious argument. It was going to happen soon. That's why the translators translate it as shortly and soon. So, to start off, boy, I'm already out of time here, my goodness. To start off in our study of the coming of Christ on the clouds of heaven with the sounding of the great trumpet, we start in Isaiah chapter 27, which begins with a prediction of the resurrection. Now, do we understand that the time of the destruction of Satan is the time of the sounding of the great trumpet? Well, of course we do. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. When the last enemy would be destroyed, it would be when? At the last trumpet. The trumpet of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 15 to 17. So yeah, the destruction of Satan, pardon me, the destruction of Satan is at the time of the resurrection. The time of the resurrection is the sounding of the trumpet. And the time of the destruction of Satan, Leviathan of Isaiah 27, was coming shortly, soon, and quickly, said Paul Oh, and by the way, says Revelation. Okay, we got a lot of ground to cover here in Isaiah chapter 27, and it's critical stuff, but I'm leading up to verse 13, okay? And its application to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 31. So with that said, okay, I'm out of time. I will see you on the flip side.